Hello and welcome to our third webinar dedicated to the new additions in oXygen XML editor version 17. In the first two webinars, we presented an overview of version 17 new additions. Then we went through the user interface improvements last week, and now we will explore the quick fixes support. My name is George Bina. I'm one of the founders of Syncrosoft, the company that develops oXygen XML editor. And I invited my colleague Octavian. Hi, Octavian.
Hello, everyone.
To present this webinar, while me and a few other colleagues from Syncrosoft will be available to answer your questions during the webinar. Before we start, before Octavian starts his presentation, here it is some useful information. The most frequent question during a webinar is whether the webinar will be recorded and made available afterwards. And the answer is yes, we record this webinar and we will make the recording available on our website, and you will receive a notification message after the webinar when the recording is available. If you have questions during the webinar, please use the questions panel in your GoToWebinar interface, and there is no need to wait until the end of the webinar to ask questions. As I mentioned, me and some of my colleagues will be able to answer questions as we go. At the end of the webinar, we have a dedicated Q&A section where you will respond live to the questions received during the webinar and, of course, during the Q&A section. In case you use Twitter, you can mark your webinar-related messages with the oXygen XML hashtag so we can easily spot them. And that is another channel that you can use to ask questions. So we will monitor that as well. That being said, I'll give control to Octavian to start his presentation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Octavian. I'm a member of the oXygen team for over 10 years now, and I'm mostly involved in the XML developing part in oXygen. In this presentation, I will show you the quick fix support that we provide for XML documents in oXygen, and we'll focus on the quick fix support for Schematron documents, so custom quick fix support. Here's an overview of the presentation. So I will start with the generic quick fix support in oXygen, then I will show you some examples with the quick fix that we generate automatically for the XSD and relaxing G validation. And after that, I will show you the Schematron quick fix language and how you can develop your custom fixes in Schematron. So it is important to have documents without errors, but not all users know to fix the errors, and even if they know, it will be better to have a proposal or a suggestion to fix them. So quick fixes are in fact suggestions to fix the errors. You can see them similar with the spell check proposals. So if you have a spelling error and you don't know the correct spelling of the word, it's easier to select it from the proposal. It's harder to fix it if you don't have a proposal. And if you know the correct spelling, it's also easier to fix it because sometimes you need to correct 2 or 3 letters from the word. So we can analyze these fixes, these errors, and propose valid fixes for them. Some of the fixes can be provided automatically, like, for example, if an element is missing or an attribute is not allowed or the value of an attribute is not correct. Some of them you can write by yourself in Schematron, and this you'll see later. In oXygen, we provide quick support for XSLT documents, for Ant build documents, and this is covered in a previous webinar. I added the link here in case you want to review it or view it. And also for generic XML documents, if they are validated against an XML schema, against a RelaxNG schema, or against Schematron. How the quick fixes are used in oXygen. So if you place the caret on a highlighted error, then a red bulb will be displayed on the left of the editor, on the stripe. And if you click this red bulb or use the contextual menu quick fix action, then you'll display the quick assist menu. And I will show this in oXygen. So I have here a project in oXygen, and I have some sample files. Here's a personal schema file which has a couple of errors, and if I click on the first error, we see that a red bulb appears on the stripe, and if we click this red bulb, the quick fix proposals are displayed. So in my case, it's an invalid ID, and also you can click in the editor, and then you can use the contextual menu action, the quick fix action, and the quick fixes are displayed in place at the current position, and you can easily access it. Or you can use the shortcut Alt-1 for Windows, for example, and also the quick fixes will be displayed at the current position. Then let's see how we can apply these quick fixes. So you just need to select the proposal from the list, and the modification will be made in the editor. The quick fixes are available in both text and author page, and each time you make a modification in the editor or you apply a quick fix, the quick fixes are recomputed, so you will always have valid quick fixes depending on the current state of the document. And of course you can undo your modifications. And let's apply some quick fixes. So here I have an invalid ID. It seems that I forgot to add a letter to the ID, and oXygen proposed me an ID that it's already declared in the editor, and we see that the error is gone. Then here I have another error. This time it's a manager ID which I didn't type correct, so oXygen proposed me to correct it with the one that is valid, and the error is gone. Now I can undo my modification, and the errors appears again, and then I will switch to the text page, and I will apply the same quick fixes also here. So if I click on the highlighted error, we see the red bulb, and if you click the red bulb, we can apply the modification, and the modification is highlighted in the editor, it's selected. And also for the second error, we can apply the quick fix, and the modification is made in the editor. So in oXygen, we offer quick fixes for generic XML documents. There are fixes that are generated automatically if you validate an XML against an XML schema or a RelaxNG schema, and fixes that needs to be provided by the schema developer in the case of the Schematron. And we'll start with the XML validated against an XML schema, and I will show you some example with quick fixes for common errors like a required attribute is missing, or an element is not allowed in the current context, or an attribute value it's not correct. So let's switch to oXygen, and for the XML schema I have here an XHTML file which contains a couple of errors, and the first one, it complains about the fact that the image element needs to have an alternate attribute, and if we click the red bulb, oXygen proposes us to add the required attribute, and also the in-place attribute editing window is displayed, so we can easily type the value of the attribute. let's say W3C text something. Then the next error, it complains about the fact that we have an invalid element here, and oXygen proposes us to insert a valid element or to remove the invalid element. And I'll choose to remove the invalid element from this position, and the error disappears. And another one here, this time it's an attribute which is not allowed on the table, so you can easily remove it using the quick fix. Similar for the RelaxNG validation, we offer similar fixes. So there are similar errors, so you can validate it with RelaxNG or RelaxNG XML schema or compact schema, and both are supported. If both are supported, and quick fixes are offered automatically. And I'll show you an example also for this type of validation. So I have here an XML RelaxNG folder with a sample file. It's a dogbook file which is validated against the RelaxNG schema. And here I have an element that is not allowed. It's a paragraph, and oXygen proposed me to insert some valid elements and to remove the invalid element from this position. So I can easily correct the error. Then I have another error here. This time it's a link, and it seems that the link is not correct, and oXygen proposed me some valid IDs from the document, and I can easily see that I added an S to the ID that is referred in the link, so I can correct my reference and select the correct ID. Then there is another error here. This time it's the value of the align attribute which is not correct set, and oXygen proposed me some valid values for this attribute, and I'll choose to make it this alignment center. And also for the vertical alignment, I'll display in place the quick fix menu, and I can select some valid values, let's say middle. And another one here, this time it's an element which is required, and I can easily insert it and then type the text. So oXygen generates automatically fixes for this type of errors from the XML schema or RelaxNG schema, and also you can easily understand the problem by seeing the proposals. Let's say, for example, you didn't type an ID correct, so you can see what type of IDs can be referred, and you can easily correct your ID. And also you can solve the problem just by clicking on the proposal. Next, let's see the validation against the Schematron schema. So in Schematron, you can define custom errors, and you need to define also custom fixes. And you can do this with the Schematron Quick Fix language, or SQF for short. I choose here a simple example. It's a group of technical writers who works on a documentation project, and they need to keep the same language in the documentation. So they need a set of rules in order to work together. These rules are imposed by an information architect, for example, and can be like schemas to maintain the structure of the documentation, or a spell checker, grammar checker to make sure that the documentation grammar is correct. But also they can impose some custom rules, like for example, bold is not allowed in the title, or an attribute is required on an element, or semicolon is not allowed after a list item, or more complex one like each row must have the same number, or ensuring the table layout is correct. So these rules are hard to remember by your authoring team, and those can be imposed by the information architect using schematron rules. But also they need guidance to solve them. Some of them may uh, may uh, may be more advanced and can solve the problems, but some of the problems can be more complicated, like the table layout to be correct. So it will be better to have fixes to all these problems. And those fixes can be offered using the Schematron Quick Fix language. The fixes can be from removing the bold styling or adding the attribute that is required, or replace the semicolon with full stop, or ensure that the table layout is correct and add the missing cells. And I will show you an example with these fixes in oXygen. I have here an XML file which has associated a schematron schema and has some asserts. The first one, it complains about the bold element that is not allowed in the title, and if I click on it, we see that a red bulb appears on the stripe, and it proposed me to remove the bold styling, and I can easily fix the problem. Then here I forgot some comments in my title, so oXygen proposed me to remove the comments, and I can easily solve it. Then here it's a link and needs the format attribute, so I can easily correct it by adding this attribute, and oXygen presents me the attribute in place window, and I can select the value for the attribute. Then here it's a semicolon at the end of the list item, and I can choose to remove it, or I can choose to replace it with full stop, and I'll choose to replace it with full stop. Then here we have another link, and here I forgot to add HTTP in front of the link, so it proposed me to add HTTP or HTTPS in order for the link to be correct. So I can easily correct it. And here it's a more complex one. The table layout, it's not correct. I have some missing cells here, those that are marked with gray here. And if I go on the error, it proposed me to add the missing cells in the row or in the table. And now the table layout is correct. And another one here, this time it's an order list, and I don't want order list in my documentation, and I want to convert it to an order list. So I can easily do that using a quick fix. So all these fixes are written in the Schematron Quick Fixes language. It's an extension language of the Schematron and was initiated by Nico Kucherauer from Data2Type. He has also an open source project on the schematronquickfixes.com website, and there is also a specification on the GitHub, and was released the first draft on the W3C community group. We created a W3C community group for XML quick fix support, and first draft, you can find it there. I added also the link here directly to the GitHub. You can check the specification there. Let's see now how the quick fixes are implemented in the Schematron. So let's switch to our XML file, and we have here the flowers Schematron file associated. I will open it, and we see that we have here a couple of rules and reports and asserts. And from the report and assert, we notice that we have an SQF fix attribute which refers a fix. And also from this report. So the SQF fixes are associated with the assert or report elements using the SQFix attribute. And you can associate one fix or multiple fixes separated by space if you want. The fix structure is very simple. In fact, it has an ID which is used to refer the fix, then a title and a description of the fix and the operation that will be performed by the fix. The ID must be unique in the current context and it's used to refer the fix. Then the title represents the name of the fix that will be displayed to the user. In the description you can add details about the fix, what you'll do and so on. And there are 4 basic operations. The add operation allows you to add one or more nodes to the document instance. The delete operation is used to match the nodes to be deleted. The replace operation, you can replace a node with another node or with other nodes. And the string replace operation is used special for string nodes, for text nodes, and it also have a regular expression which can match substrings in the text node and replace these substrings. And I will show you some examples with this operation. We will start with the add operation. It allows you to add nodes in a document instance, and I choose here a simple example that will add an attribute to our document. So let's switch to oXygen and see how we can implement this. I will close these files. And I have here the same XML file, but this time it does not have the fixes. So it has the same assert, but now if you click on the error, we don't see the red bulb, so you don't have a fix for this problem. And if you open the Schematron file associated with it, we see that we have the rules and the reports, but there are no fixes here. And we want to create a fix for the assert that checks that the format attribute exists on the xref element. I'll go after this assert and I'll start the content completion here, and we see that oXygen proposes us in the content completion the SQF elements, and I will select to add a fix here, and the required elements and attributes are automatically added. I need to type the ID of the fix, let's say add format, and then the title that will be presented to the user, add format attribute, and then the operation that will be performed by this fix. And from the content completion, I will select that I want to add a node. So I will select the add operation. And here there are a couple of attributes. The first one is the match attribute that represents the node that you want to modify. And in my case, I want to add an attribute on the xref element. So I'll choose the current node as the match. By default is the current node, so you can add or not in the match attribute. Then the node type that will be inserted is specified by the node type attribute. And here we have the type of nodes that can be set, and I'll choose to add an attribute. Then the name attribute, the name of the attribute will be set in the target. And here I want to add a format. Then we have the position, which is not needed for the add operation if you add an attribute. I'll use it later for the add element. And then we have the select attribute, where you can specify the value of the element that or attribute that you insert, or you can specify directly in the add element. In my case, I want to leave the value of the attribute empty, and oXygen will automatically display the in-place attributes editing, and you can insert the value there. So the user will be asked about a value. Then I need to refer the fix from the assert, and we see that oXygen proposes on the assert the SQF fix attribute, and also the IDs of the fixes that can be referred here, and I can easily select that I want to present the add format fix on this error. Then let's save this schematron and go back to our XML file. And in order to have the fixes, because I modified the schema, I need to trigger the validation even by using the validate action or by making a modification in the document, and the automatical validation will be performed. And we see that the quick fix is displayed, and we can insert the attribute and select the value. I'll create another quick fix. I have here at the end of the document an error. This time it says that the list must have more than one list item, and I want to add another list item in the list. So let's go in the Schematron file, and I have here the rule which matches the unordered list and checks that the list item number is greater than 1. So I'll add here a fix, start the content completion, fix, add the ID of the fix, add list item, then the title, and the operation that will be performed. I want to make an addition, and the addition I want to be also in the current context, so in the unordered list, so I'll match the current node. Then the node type that I want to insert, I want to be an element, so I'll choose the element, and the name of the element, the qualify name, it's list item, and then I can specify also the position of the new element, and the position can be after, before, as first child or as last child of the context node. So in my case, I want to add the list item as last child in the list. So select last child, and then the value can be specified in the select attribute or directly in the add element. And I want to add also, let's say, a paragraph here in the list item. Then let's refer this fix from our assert. Save the file and go back to our XML document. So we are to apply the quick fix for the list item. So the fix that we created to add a new list item, and if we select it, we see that the new list item is added as last child in our list, and also we have a paragraph here. Here's the structure of the add operation. So we have the add operation has a match attribute, which determines the node that will be modified. Then a node type, which specifies the type of node that you want to add, an attribute, an element, a comment. Then in the target attribute, you can specify the qualify name of the node that you want to add. And the content of the node can be specified in the select attribute or directly in the add element. And here you can use also XSL elements. The elements that can be used in an XSL template can be used also in the in the element, and you can make also processing. Next we have the replace operation. This allows you to replace a node with another or with another nodes, another node or another nodes. And I choose here an example which will replace an order list with an unordered one. So let's switch to oXygen. And we have here the error that it complains about the fact that order lists are not allowed in the documentation. So let's switch to our Schematron, and we have here the rule which checks that order lists are not allowed and displays a message. And I will add here a fix, and this time will be a replace. So let's type the ID of the fix. Let's say convert order list to an order list. Then the title, convert to an order list, and then after the description you can type the operation, and this time I will select the replace operation. Here we can type the attributes. The match attribute represents the node that we want to replace, and in our case we want to replace the current context node from the rule, so the order list, and I'll choose the current one that I want to replace, but you can specify an expat expression and replace other nodes from the document if you want. Then I want to replace it with an element, so in the node type I'll specify element, and the name of the element I want to be an order list, and then I can specify the content of the new element, and I want to insert in the current an order list the children from the order list that I want to replace. So I can use here child node. This means that the inserted element will contain also the elements from the order list. Let's refer this fix from the assert, sqfx convert, save the file, and then go in our document. We see that we have a fix here, and we can convert the list to an order list. And we see that the modification is made in the document. So the structure of the replace operation is similar to the add operation. It doesn't have the position attribute because the replaced node will be the matching node. So the match attribute determines the node to be replaced. Then we have the node type, which represents the type of node that you want to add. The target represents the node name that you want to add, and then the content of the replace will be specified either in the select attribute or directly in the replace element, and also here you can add XSL elements. Next we have the delete operation. This is more simple. It has only the match attribute which matches the elements or nodes to be deleted, and I choose here an example that will delete a comment. So let's switch to oXygen, and we have here an error which complains about the fact that in the title there is a comment. So I'll go in Schematron, and we have here a report which reports this problem, and I will add here a fix to remove the comment from the title. So SQF fix remove comment, then the title remove comment, and then the operation that will be performed. So it's an SQF, and this time I will select the delete operation. And I want to delete the comments from the title element. So in the match attribute, I will specify comment. Then I need to refer the fix from the report, and I'll choose to remove the comment, save the file, and then if I go in my XML document, we have here the fix, which allows us to remove the comment and solve the problem. So the delete operation structure is very simple, has only the match attribute which specifies the node to be deleted or the nodes to be deleted. And it's also an expat expression. Then we have the string replace operation. It is used special for text nodes, and it also has a regular expression that allows you to match substrings in the text nodes and replace the substrings that are matched. And I choose here an example which matches a list item and removes the semicolon from the end of the list item. So let's switch to oXygen and go now in our schematron. We have here a rule which matches the list item, and a report which checks that semicolon is not added at the end of the list item. So I'll add here a fix to solve this problem. SQF fix, let's say replace semicolon. I will replace it with a full stop. So I'll create a fix which will replace it with a full stop. So say replace semicolon with full stop, and then the operation which will be string replace operation, and the regular expression attribute is required, and here I need to match the semicolon from the end of the text. So I'll type the regular expression, and in the match attribute I'll specify the text node that I want to change. So I want to modify the text from the list item element, specify text here, and then the value which will be used to replace the semicolon can be specified either in the select attribute or directly in the string replace operation. And I'll choose to replace it with full stop. Then let's refer the fix from the report, SQF fix, and replace semicolon, and I'll save my schema. And if I go back in my XML file, I have here a list item with semicolon, and I can easily replace it with full stop. The string replace operation structure looks like this, has a match attribute which needs to match text nodes that will be modified, then a regular expression used to match substrings in the text nodes that will be replaced, and then the content which will be used to replace the text. It's specified even in the select attribute or directly in the string replace element. And also here you can use XSL elements. Next, let's see the formatting of the content that it's inserted. Sometimes you need to format the content. By default, oXygen performs line indenting, and the content inserted by the add operation or replace operations um, are like in XSLT. So if you insert only elements, then the white spaces will be ignored. If you insert text and elements, then the white spaces is significant. So if you need to make sure that the content is inserted like you want in the output, you can use also XML space with the value preserved on the operation, and then the text from the operation will be inserted as you type it in the fix. And I have here some examples. Let's say you want to add a row, for example, with a couple of entries. Then if you want that this row to look like this in the output, you need to add some new lines using XSL text between the elements. Otherwise, the elements will be inserted on a single line. On another example, if you want to insert a code block where you want that the fragment that you insert in the code block to be as you added in your operation, then you need to specify the XML space preserve attribute, XML space attribute with the value preserve. We have also, there is also an use when condition that can be set on a fix or on an operation, and this allows you to make a fix or an operation available depending on a condition. This condition is an XPath expression which should return a Boolean value. And for example, let's say you want to provide the replaced semicolon operation or fix only when the last on the last list item. And I'll show you this in oXygen. Let's open our first example. So we have here two quick fixes to remove or to replace the semicolon with full stop. And let's add also a semicolon on this list item, and also here we have the same actions. Now I'll go in the Schematron file associated with this XML, and we have a rule which matches the list item and refers the two quick fixes from the report. And I will add a condition on the remove semicolon, and I will say, okay, this should be presented only when the position of the current list item is not last. And on the second quick fix, I'll add also a condition, and I'll say the position of the list item should be last and should be presented a quick fix only for the last list item. Then let's save this file and go back to our XML document. And now if I display the fixes, we see that for this error we have the remove semicolon fix, and we can remove it. And for this list item we have the replace semicolon with full stop. There are a few additional elements in the SQF for grouping the fixes or for calling another fix. There is an element that allows the user, to set a value manually. This is not supported yet in oXygen. It's the user entry element, so it's not supported in the current version. You can read more about the SQF specification on GitHub. You have also the link here. The framework supported that oXygen provides for SQF, so you can edit SQL files as a library in a separate file, or you can edit directly in Schematron. We offer validation as you type support, and also for the SQF embedded in Schematron, you have XPath functions in content completion. We have XSLT functions and variables, and can be easily referred, and also the quick fix IDs as you've seen in the examples, and also you have refactoring actions to rename a fix or a variable that you declare in SQF or in XSL, and you can easily change their name. What are the benefits of the quick fixes? So it allows you to create custom fixes for your errors, and you can use the power of XSLT and Schematron to develop different quick fixes and generate content in the fix that you provide. And also it's a solution for every type of for any type of XML document. You can even create refactoring action. For example, you can create a fix which will rename the elements from a document, or to add some comments or remove some comments from the document. The schematron can be used for any XML document. So you can provide also fixes for any XML document. So the SQF can be used also in development. For example, if you are developing XSLT or RelaxNG schemas or XML schemas, you can add constraints using schematrons and offer quick fixes using SQF. For example, Michael K. told us about a problem in style sheets at XML Prague. He asked us about adding a fix which will make sure that a variable or a parameter has a type. So I have here an example with a style sheet that has a couple of variables and parameters, and I added a schematron validation also on the style sheet, and it announced me that we recommend to add a type on the parameter, and I can easily add using the quick fix, and then type the value of the parameter. So quick fixes can be used for any XML documents, even for development. There are a few projects who are using quick fixes right now. We offer quick fixes in our data framework provided in oXygen. There is also the user manual that is on the GitHub, and we also have quick fixes. And the dynamic information model project that it's also on GitHub, it provides quick fixes. We also got a lot of feedback on the quick fix support, and people are trying to use it. And I've seen also on the TI list someone that solved a problem that took like 5 minutes to solve it, and created a quick fix that solved it with one click. And they also shared the fixes on a wiki page. So there is a lot of interest in this. As I told you, Nico Kucherov from Data to Type has a project and has an engine that generates quick fixes, and this is available on the schematronquickfixes.com. It's a Scali Schematron engine. It has a Scali Schematron command line that allows you to apply quick fixes, and also he develops an oXygen plugin that it uses this engine. So thank you very much. If you have questions, you can send me also later on my email address or on Twitter. You can also add questions on the W3C group or on the GitHub if you want. if you have questions, if there are questions related to the specification. Thank you.
Thank you, Octavian. And we are also very busy to answer many questions during the webinar. So let's go through some of them and respond to them live. So one question was if there is a shortcut to advance to the next quick fix location, to the next error. And maybe Octavian can help me a little to show the oXygen, the menu shortcut keys in the options, in the oXygen options, where you can filter here, for instance, with error, typing error, and then you'll see this next error and the previous error entries. So these are the shortcuts that will get you to the next or previous errors, but you can also just double click and provide your own shortcuts if you prefer something else rather than the defaults. If I have activated a quick fix, is it always necessary to validate again to see the next one? And the answer is yes and no. Quick fixes are displayed part of the automatic validation. So whenever you select a quick fix to resolve a problem in the document will change, and then the automatic validation will be triggered, and you'll get an updated list of fixes. So basically you don't need to manually revalidate the document, but that will be done by the automatic validation in oXygen. Another question was if we can compare making something an error in Schematron with changing your schema file to reject that content. So basically the RelaxNG or other schemas. So basically the question is whether to detect some errors using Schematron or rather change the schemas to detect those errors. And now there are pro and contra arguments, so both, but in general the strength of Schematron is that you have full control on the error message and full control on the fix or fixes that will be provided to the user, while with the RelaxNG or with other schema language, you will just get a generic error message or a fix if a fix is provided for that type of error. Another question is, can Schematron Quick Fix be placed globally within a Schematron file to be accessed by any rule? And the question is, the answer is yes, you can define fixes either globally available to all assertions or reports, or you can place them within the rule. Now a follow-up on this was whether it's possible to define fixes also within a pattern. Octavian, is that possible, or it's just either global or within a rule? Oh, okay, so Octavian, I think he's muted.
Yes, the fixes can be defined either globally or directly in the rule.
Okay, so my suggestion is that you can join the W3C community group and provide feedback, because the SQF basically is a draft. It's under development, and any ideas will be considered. Okay. And also regarding the whether to put an error within a relaxng or within a schematron, follow-up question or note is that with schematron you can also control the level of reporting an error. So you can decide, whether it's using the role attribute, you can specify that as info, warning, error, fatal, while if you have that in Schematron or XML schema, you will always get an error. Okay. Another question was about embedding quick fixes within other schema languages, like embedding Schematron within relaxng or XML schema. And the question was specifically about embedding this in relaxng compact syntax. And while relaxng compact syntax can express annotations, we do not support embedded schematron in relaxng compact. We support only embedded schematron in relaxng with XML syntax and within XML schema files. Okay, it was a mention about TEI, and that means a text encoding initiative. It is a huge project with a lot of participants. Another question is whether it's possible to iterate over an XPath expression to generate an unknown number of one or more quick fixes. Well, this was actually recently discussed also on GitHub on the issue tracking for on the issues for the Schematron Quick Fix, and the answer is no. Or you can use the user entry basically to specify a list of values right now, although we do not support that in oXygen. There is also a danger with this. I mean, if you provide like 100 plus fixes, then it will be difficult for a user, let's say, to choose a fix. In that case, there will be too many. So I think quick fixes make sense when you have a limited number of choices rather than an uncontrollable number of possibilities. But we will probably support user entry in the future, and that may be an option. Or there are already a couple of proposals on the GitHub Pro issue tracker. So there may be some options to improve that in the future. Okay. Can we apply a schematron file to all documents globally for all users? Well, there are a number of possibilities for doing that. In our case, Octavian mentioned that we provide a number of quick fixes for data, and in that case, we added the schematron validation as part of the data framework. So maybe Octavian can go to options, preferences, and then in the document type association, we can select data, and on the validation tab, you see that we have here, we define a data validation scenario, which basically says you don't just validate with the schema. That's the first validation you need, the first entry that you see here. But along with that validation, validating a document with the associated schema, we also trigger, you see here, 3 other Schematron validations, and some of these contain also quick fixes. So in this way, basically, we enforce this Schematron validation to any data document. And I think we can move to, we are 3 minutes past the hour, so let's try to close the questions now, and let's move to a short, a quick note on upcoming events. So thank you all for joining us today, and thank you, Octavian, for a great presentation. So as I said, I would like to mention some of the upcoming events. We have 3 more webinars dedicated to oXygen 17 during the following 3 weeks, every Wednesday at the same time as today, 11 a.m. EDT. So please join us again to find about XML, refactoring XML documents, new additions to the data support, and discover the new HTML5 JavaScript-based XML authoring support that we provide for working across platforms and devices, being both desktop and mobile friendly. Following week, the beginning of June, we'll be in London, where we have an oXygen users meetup on Friday, just before XML London, and then we'll exhibit and present a session at the XML London conference. So thanks again, and I hope to meet you again either virtually at one of the upcoming webinars or in person at one of the conferences we attend. Goodbye.